Welcome to Illuminati Silver, where we tell you the truth about silver. Today is Thursday the 24th of January 2019, and this is an article reading we are making available to all subscribers. This will be followed up with other articles exclusive to our Inner Sanctum members as part of a credit and debt series covering all aspects of managing personal finance. These will include tips and recommendations on how to manage your money effectively. The article I am going to read is by Thomas Dichter, who has during the last 50 years worked for the World Bank, the UN, numerous government aid agencies, as well as in the world of NGOs and private foundations. This article was published on the 1st of January 2019 for Forbes.com. It's entitled, "A New Year's Resolution to Manage Your Finances. Why is sticking to it so hard?" Here goes. The Washington Post wrote recently about a woman who has been selling her services at $185 per hour to help folks match what they make with what they spend. Of course, she sells software to help people do this. And this past April, the New York Times carried an article called "Stop Wasting Money and Finally Start a Budget." In it, the author cites an online service that will help you track your expenses at a cost of about $80 per year. You don't need any of it. Figuring out what you spend, not roughly but exactly, is not rocket science and doesn't require software. In my late 20s, when I had $140 in the bank and scary credit card debt, I realised I had to do something. I bought some graph paper and set out columns of my fixed costs: mortgage, heat, electricity, auto and home insurance. Then I added a column each for things like car expenses, magazines, books and subscriptions, routine household expenses, from mousetraps to batteries, clothing, restaurants, including fast food and take-out coffee, and so on. I forced myself to write down what I had spent under each category. After a week, my inner accountant had emerged and I kept at it. By month 6, I noticed something magical. The act of tracking expenses had a feedback effect on my spending. My expenses in the categories that all of us tend to ignore, take-out food and coffee, a candy bar at the vending machine, impulse buying a shirt or a magazine at the checkout line, etc., were going down. Not because I wanted to deny myself, but because I could see what was happening. At the end of that first full year, those few minutes a day of what became compulsive recording paid off. It took me about half an hour to add up each category and then total it all. A side benefit became obvious when I had to do my taxes. Then I compared that total to my take-home income for the year and saw I was ahead for the first time in my life. I decided to do a budget for the next year, using the past year's expenses as a guide. At the end of that year, I saw I had come within 1% of my budget estimate. Passing that self-imposed test soon became an annual goal. Each year on December the 31st, I see how close I've come to my budget estimate of 12 months earlier. Usually I come within that 1%, sometimes over, but more often under. Why do so few people do some version of the above? As with much human behaviour, the answer lies in a mix of rationality, rationalisation, delusion, denial, and the social context in which we all live. Perhaps looking at some of the deeper reasons why people tend to spend beyond their means and then resist doing something about it will help. Our own society gives us both permission and encouragement to overspend, beginning with President Trump. If he can push the US into a record-breaking deficit, why should we try to control our personal spending? From the US government on down, many Americans live beyond their means. In an economy built on consumption, a culture of shopping has evolved to encompass all of us. We are all consumers, but we do not act as isolated units. Each consumer operates within a context of meanings and symbols. This is the basis of modern advertising, as is by now well known. Consumption is a broader form of exchange than just getting a thing or a service in exchange for money. We also get deeper rewards, like love, warmth and status. And shopping psychologists and marketing gurus have long known is addictive in the same way as marijuana or alcohol. The purchase of something new creates a mild high. These rewards are ratified by the ubiquitous credit card, where the message is you can have what you want when you want it. The history of consumer credit, going back to the spread of instalment plan buying in the 1920s and on to the introduction in 1950 of the first universal credit card, a card that could be used in a number of establishments, is loaded with symbols and metaphors that give us permission to do something that goes against common sense, buying something that you cannot pay for. Before easy credit, debt was akin to a sin, and people were raised to think that one had to save up to get something. Remember, a penny saved is a penny earned. Significantly, the plastic card we all now carry was named a credit card and not a go into debt card, and the word credit can even suggest something positive, as in the phrase, your behaviour does you credit, or she is a credit to her education. There is an acknowledgement of merit, even honour. Thus you as a credit card holder are not only given tacit permission to go into debt, but subtly lauded as a finer person. Likewise, buying something conveys that you own it, it is yours, and by buying it you may get many benefits, including keeping up with those who are richer than you. You too can own what everyone else owns. You do not have to deprive yourself or postpone your pleasure. Never mind that the buying on credit technically means that you do not own it until the debt is paid off. In the meantime, the credit card issuer has paid for it, not you. It is not surprising then that credit card debt has been rising steadily since cards came into widespread use in the late 1960s and 70s. The Federal Reserve did not track credit card debt until 1968, at which time it totaled $1.3 billion. In 2018 it had grown 770 times greater than it was 50 years ago to reach $1 trillion, with the average US household carrying over $8,000 in credit card debt alone. This does not count for other forms of consumer debt either, such as auto loans. In short, overspending is the norm. It is even patriotic, since 70% of our economy depends on people buying things and services. And in typical American fashion, an industry has arisen to help people with their credit card debt. There are credit card debt counsellors, credit card debt support groups, credit card debt consolidators, and budgeting software, all of which of course adds more expense to one's budget. As for my simple method, resistance to it begins at the most rational level. Many people think keeping such a spending record takes up valuable time, even though it does not. This fits into the widespread "I'm way too busy" syndrome, the common pattern of people feeling that they already juggle too much in their daily lives, which in turn fits with the growing presence in our lives of the internet, which has put most of us into a real-time pressure cooker. With real time becoming the only kind of time for many people, there is little room for thinking about or planning for the future, which in a sense is what budgeting is. At a deeper level, it seems possible that most people really don't want to know what they spend. They are more comfortable in denial. Making or keeping a budget would threaten their illusion that all is well. Running still deeper is how the symbolism of budgeting can affect one's self-image. Many people may think tracking expenses on a daily or weekly basis marks them as a green eyeshade-wearing nerd, or worse, a life-denying, fun-hating tightwad skinflint. They'd rather be in financial trouble than risk that self-image. For all these reasons, most people will continue to overspend and resist any programme to help them realign their income with their expenses. At best, we will see the same kind of bell curve we see with dieting and exercising. It's New Year's Day, you're ready to start off well, you've just purchased budgeting software, which you put on your credit card of course, and you're determined to get things under control. But before things go the way they usually do, falling back into familiar habits, think about some of the reasons why.
We hope you have found this video interesting and informative, and if so, please give it a thumbs up and share it on social media. Please ensure that you have subscribed to our channel and press the bell sign so that you are notified of any future videos. Also, kindly visit our website at illuminatisilver.com, and if you haven't already done so, please subscribe either as a free or paying member for regular email updates and offers. Disclaimer: Illuminati Silver owners come from a background of banking, international wealth management and economics. Having now retired from these worlds, we are not qualified to give investment advice. Therefore, this and other productions must not be deemed to be giving such advice and merely represent the personal views of its owners.